hearing directly from people that were callers that credited the Hope Line with supporting them in their worst moments and their deepest, darkest despair of loss of all hope, reignited me. So instead of wanting to basically end it all, I was like, oh my God, we really were doing a good thing. We really were connecting people up to help and hope.
Sometimes it's the smallest things we do in our everyday lives that can make the biggest impact in the lives of strangers, friends, family. And then sometimes by telling those stories, it continues to inspire.
This is Kathryn Goetzke, host of the Hope Matrix podcast. We are here to share science, stories, and strategies for how to hope. I'm the Chief Hope Officer of the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about how we use stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are our thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life.
Well, hello, listeners and friends. This is Kathryn Goetzke, host of the Hope Matrix podcast. Really excited to have you all here today listening in. And I have two guests on the podcast today, which is very cool. I was just actually, one of them is Reese Butler. We were just speaking, and I think it's been 15 years since we were together. And Reese is the founder and started 1-800-SUICIDE, the first ever 800 number for suicide in the U.S. And we are joined here with Frank Warren, who started PostSecret, a phenomenon that has taken off around the world. And just, you have books, you have so many stories. You did a TED Talk, I believe, on it, Frank, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's been 15 years since I saw you. We were just, discussing, we all look the same. So kudos to us for the work we're doing. But it's great to have you both here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, so we are here to talk about all things hopelessness and hope. And you all are, you each are experts in your own rights on that. Reese, why don't we start with you a little bit about, your story?
Yeah, the most powerful story that I have regarding loss of hope and regaining that hope and 800-SUICIDE and Frank Warren happened on April 7th in 2006, which was the 8th anniversary of Kristen's death by suicide, which is what led me to begin 1-800-SUICIDE in the first place. We, that particular day, had $45,000 in the bank, and our phone bill every month was $50,000, so we were short $5,000. So I called Frank up because he had done a benefit for us in December and was going to do a couple more coming up in May and June in Alexandria. And I said, Frank, is there any way that you could advance me $5,000 on the benefits that you're going to do in May and June? And he said, well, I've got 4. And maybe if you don't mind, I'll put up on the website that you're short $1,000. And I said, that's fine with me. I said, I'll go out on the street corner with a tin cup, whatever it takes. And so it was Sunday night, and Frank put it up. It was like 2:00 in the morning. And I remember sitting there at the kitchen table with Elena. And at 2:00 in the morning when it went live, a minute later we hear ping, and it was a $5 donation. And it was like, wow, who's up at 2:00 in the morning other than us? And then another minute, another donation, $15, and then one for $500. And over the course of the next week, over 900 people donated over $30,000. But what was remarkable wasn't so much the money that was donated, but uh, each person that donated that money said, "The Hope Line has always been there for me. I'm glad I can finally be there for the Hope Line."
Mm.
You got to put this in context. For 8 years, I'd been routing and getting paid the phone bill for millions and millions of callers to 1-800-SUICIDE, but I never ever met or heard from any of the people. It wasn't like you could call them back in the morning and say, "How'd that call go for you?" So, uh, hearing directly from people that were callers that credited the Hope Line with supporting them in their worst moments and their deepest, darkest despair of loss of all hope reignited me. So instead of wanting to basically end it all, I was like, "Oh my God, we really were doing a good thing. We really were connecting people up to help and hope." And that one week, that 900 plus group of people kept us going through battle after battle after battle and barrier after barrier. We could always go back and look at those 900 emails and remember why we were doing what we were doing. So it was uh, most powerful response from the Post Secret community that Frank inspired and created. And over the course of the next 10 years, raised over $1 million for 1-800-SUICIDE and the Hope Center, but also was responsible for over 90% of the volunteers that signed up to get trained to become crisis line workers or crisis chat responders. So there was this symbiotic relationship between Frank, the Post Secret community that he inspired and built, and 1-800-SUICIDE, the very people that were helped because of it.
Mm.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah, I love your relationship. How you guys have connected over. I know it's just amazing. Okay, Frank, for people that don't know, what is Hope Post Secret and what inspired it?
Yeah, PostSecret was a project I started 20 years ago in Washington, D.C. I printed up about 3,000 self-addressed postcards like this one. They had my home address and some simple instructions inviting people to write down a true secret they'd never told anyone else before, decorate the postcard with artwork, and mail it to my home anonymously. And at night after work, I would drive to Metro in DC and hand out these postcards to strangers getting off Metro and got all kinds of reactions from people. Some people ignored me, some people took multiple cards. Some people said, I don't have any secrets, but I made sure they took a card because they got the best one.
Yes.
And eventually secrets began to find their way to my mailbox. They just came 2 or 3 a day, and as they arrived, I would scan them and post them on the web, and soon that website, postsecret.com, went viral, and I started receiving postcards from all over the world, not just Washington, DC. And today the collection is well over 1 million, and there are 6 Post Secret books, and the blog has had over 800 million hits, and the secrets continue to arrive. I got just a handful from the PO box today.
No way.
But you asked about the motivation for the project too, and that takes me back to Reese. And there are many things I admire about Reese Butler. One of them is that he created the first national suicide prevention hotline. And I was a volunteer on that hotline, not knowing Reese. But I was on that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. shift listening to people's secrets at night. And I did that before Post Secret. And I think one of the reasons the idea for Post Secret arose in my mind is because I knew of people who wanted to have these conversations, these real conversations about what they were feeling, experiencing, the suffering they might be in the middle of, and they had no place to go, no one to talk to, no community. And so Post Secret turned out to be the safe, non judgmental place where people could share these feelings. And it really turned out to be a connective network that has grown and grown and grown. The postcards keep coming, the emails keep coming, the stories keep coming. And so over those 20 years, it's been great to link up with Reese in several ways to support the great work that he does. And our community has a lot of overlap that's kept us kind of on the parallel paths as well.
Yeah. Is there an online community of people where people like actually talk, or is it really just the collection of the postcards and the like seeing what other people are saying?
It's both. The postcards come in anonymously, and I post them on the web at postsecret.com every Sunday. And that's kind of a one-way communication net where people can cards every week. There's not much way to respond there. But there are social media platforms too where conversations do go on. So for example, yesterday I posted an email that somebody had sent me on the Facebook platform. And if I can I just read you part of what I posted?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful secret. It says, "Hi, Frank. Sorry to bother you. I was just wondering if among the sea of it gets better sentiments, there are people who acknowledge that sometimes it doesn't. My failed attempt was 29 years ago and has not, in fact, gotten better. I tried so hard for such a long time to get better, to be happy, but every year that passes leaves me more and more hopeless. I've never seen anyone express this sentiment. Everyone insists sunshine and rainbows and self actualization are all around the bend. I never express my hopeless sentiment because I don't want to ruin anyone else's happiness." So I posted that on Facebook, and as you can imagine, it got a lot of responses. To date, within 24 hours, there have been over 1,000 comments. And really a lot of it is me too. You're not alone. We're all there together. Here are some things that work for me. So there's this sense of community and response. And the person who sent me this email has already responded back to me, in this long email. I see it in my inbox. I haven't read it yet. I can just imagine this person's sense of connection and feeling verified and seen for sharing this hidden feeling that they probably associated with shame
Yeah.
in a way that allowed them to realize they weren't alone. There are strategies, there are people who care, and there's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, and we were just talking about that. I mean, hope is a journey, it's not a destination. It's a constant process of navigating our way through life and with the ups and downs and learning how to, for me, managing that sadness in healthier ways so that I don't go deeper or darker. The anger I have, the fear I have because I feel so deeply about things and just understanding how I was so super self-destructive in the past, and I study hopelessness and hope, and what we found, hopelessness comes up as the single consistent predictor of suicide, and we all experience moments of hopelessness, and I would argue all the time we can get an email from someone that's triggering that can make us, get us in that sad state or feel angry and that sense of helplessness, which is what hopelessness is. It's both that emotional, that kind of sadness, anger, fear, emotional despair, and that sense of helplessness. And we feel powerless to do anything about it. The combination of those two things can be so lethal, and that's when we turn to addiction or violence or self-harm or those things, and it's learning how to navigate those states of despair in healthier ways and get back to feeling better, which isn't a destination, it's a journey. We go back, we get sad again, and then we work to, navigate that in healthy ways and then get out of our helplessness and where is our power and where can we take action and yeah, what are the skills to do that? And then, all those negative thinking patterns that happen in our brain that can, again, take us right down and learning to identify what they are and how to like, to conquer them or to manage them in healthier ways. But to me, hope is a process and it's not easy yet. It's always possible to kind of, but again, it's not a place we stay. Happiness isn't a state that we stay in. The whole thing is just a journey all the way. Is that what you've learned along the way for yourself, Reese?
Oh, absolutely. Uh, we do these events on college campuses all the time, and uh, one of my favorite interactions is talking to people that have shared a secret, read secrets from other students, and getting their reaction, how they feel about it. And if someone says that they enjoyed the sharing of the secret station the best, I usually ask them, was it the sharing of a secret or reading the secret? And yeah, sometimes it's one or the other, sometimes it's both. But the most common thing I hear is people saying, I thought I was the only person dealing with a particular issue. And I see that other students on this campus are wrestling with the same problem. I feel so much better about myself. I am not alone. Or the same concept, but they're saying, oh my God, I read The Secret and this person has things way worse in their perception than that person did. So they feel better about their own problem, which is you probably have heard the concept that if you put 100 people in a room and if everybody could throw their problems up in the air, we'd all reach and grab for our own, as opposed to somebody else's.
I haven't heard that. That's funny. Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing all of the people, the communities you've talked to, the individuals you've reached, and to me, the amount of secrets we all carry. I think that's one of the biggest things I learned in recovery. I've been in recovery over 21 years, and for me, that was the most powerful process that I went through is acknowledging all the harm we'd done to others, and first acknowledging it with ourselves and then working with another person. And to me, that was the revealing of all of these secrets that I thought for sure when I, spoke them out loud, there would be so much shame and disregard from the group. And that was the thing that brought us closest together. And that allowed me the space and time to actually start healing. So,
I I had an experience just last week, where this woman was at Fact or Fiction, and we were talking about the concept of recognizing the warning signs, and she was saying how when she was in high school, and this was I guess some 30 plus years earlier, she was in her 50s, um, that she had lost a classmate. And so she was relating to the warning sign issue and saying, no, it's not true. Uh, there were no warning signs with this young man. And uh, I probed a little deeper. And as the conversation went on, she started coming up with all these warning signs that had been buried in her memory, uh, that this person had shared. And I watched this happen in front of me where she said, "Oh my God, haven't thought about this young man in 30 years." So it's like uh, bringing it up. Yes, it can be ripping a scab off an old wound, but if you haven't dealt with it, if you haven't processed it, and you haven't healed from the trauma,
Mhm.
it might as well have been yesterday. Uh,
Yeah.
and that was so revealing to listen to this woman say how much better she felt at the end of the conversation because she acknowledged that indeed there were warning signs and things, the young man didn't get the help he needed, and people didn't know the warning signs were even there, much less how to act on them. So it's very critical that we learn the warning signs, the hopelessness, the helplessness as you described,
Mhm.
and be that beacon of hope, try to instill that hope in somebody else.
Mhm. Yeah, Frank, is that what you found? Is that it's been really healing for people to acknowledge their secrets and to feel heard? I mean, is that pretty consistent? Do you get a lot of feedback from people after they've posted or shared or you mentioned the guy you heard from today. Is that a regular occurrence?
Yeah, I think there's a process that people go through, and emailing Reese back and forth this week has made me focus on some of it. I feel as though that first layer is just not feeling well, just being suffering or in anguish and not knowing why. And maybe the second step is understanding the pain a little bit, being able to put a word to what you're feeling. resentment or pain or broken heart or depression, wherever that might be. And then maybe the step after that is articulating that feeling for you, being able to write on a piece of paper an experience where you felt humiliated, or share your confession by whispering it into a tree, or writing your secret on a postcard and letting it go to a stranger and getting it out. And then I think maybe the next phase would be a sense of not feeling alone, knowing when you hear back from the community, oh, I get that. I hear you. I've been there. You're not alone. Here's a postcard right above yours on the website that reflects something similar. So then as that burden of shame gets lifted, I think it allows you to even to embrace that a little bit more, and get a further grip on what it is that might have the grip on you. We think we're keeping a secret, but many times that secret's keeping us. And so I think the next step is that feeling of hope and possibility that you're connected to. And then that step after that, I think, is that further step that you mentioned earlier, which is the help, the specific strategies, the techniques, the evidence-based practices that we know work. And once you go through that full spectrum and get that last part, then I think it allows you to start this virtuous cycle that allows you to kind of build on small wins and success and incorporate your community and your family on your journey. And then you get to a point where you're not only feeding yourself, but you're able to help others and reach back out. And that's kind of the full spectrum and full journey. And that's what I like to see on Post Secret.
That is so cool. It's like a self-regeneration process, like a cyclical thing that kind of feeds. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Now, have the secrets primarily been about, traumas or negative things, or what's been your experience there as regard? Are there positive secrets? Are people sharing positive things? And what's kind of the breakdown of how you've seen that coming in?
I've gotten all kinds of secrets for the years that you can imagine. If you can imagine a human
I
experience
cannot.
or
I
anything
know.
that's human emotion, I've seen it on a postcard. So I think of Post Secret as a celebration of our full spectrum of humanity and emotions. Having said that, though, I do get some secrets more than others. One of the most popular I get is I pee in the shower. That's a very popular secret. But other ones I get are heavy, and they involve the things that you're not gonna run to Facebook and post about yourself immediately, kind of the heavier things. Um, yeah, so I've got a couple here. Can I read a few to you
Yes,
to feel
please.
what some of them are?
Absolutely.
So this is a postcard with some interesting artwork on it, and the secret says, "His temper is so scary that I've lost all of my opinions." And when I posted this one on the website, it got a lot of email responses. And one person said, I didn't even know I was in an abusive relationship until I saw your secret and realized that was me too. And once I did, I decided to get out of it. And I was able to post her action of healing underneath that postcard of pain, and like this communication. It really gave a sense of healing to the community. Here's another one. This one says, here's the postcard reads, I love going home for the holidays because my high school sweetheart is always willing to try and give me the baby I so desperately want.
That's
And then
awesome.
here's one last one I'll leave you with. It came on a postcard with a Godiva chocolate label on it. And it says, I work at the mall. My first customer of the day was looking over our chocolate display and asked me what kind I liked. This is not unusual. Customers usually ask to help them decide. I finished ringing her up and she handed me the chocolate, telling me she got it for me. I stood there holding it and didn't know what to do and was trying so hard not to cry. All morning, I had been thinking about suicide.
Wow.
Sometimes it's the smallest things we do in our everyday lives that can make the biggest impact in the lives of strangers, friends, family. And then sometimes by telling those stories, it continues to inspire.
Mm.
I've always likened the PostSecret project, and especially knowing Frank's origins as a crisis line worker on 800 Suicide, as the lowest form of entry, the easiest form of entry, whereas picking up the phone and actually hearing a crisis line worker talk and then actually responding and having that conversation, most people hang up as soon as they hear that human voice, afraid. They don't know what's going to happen. Whereas uh, taking that postcard, writing down those words and using graphics or whatever to tell a story, and then mailing it off, no one knows it's that person. That person knows that someone else is going to see that, and if it gets posted, many people will see it that may have the same issue. It may not have the effect of getting that person to the next stage, which is talking to a therapist, a trusted advisor, a close friend, maybe a parent. Um, but it does bring them closer to that next step, as Frank was talking about, the continuum of healing. And it's such an important step that didn't exist before the Post Secret project. You might write a letter to somebody and then burn it, but it wasn't like you'd write the letter about that person or your feeling and then it would get posted somewhere, but nobody would know it was you who sent it. So what Frank created with that community is like the easiest form of access to the healing continuum, the process of beginning that healing of a trauma. Or okay, maybe the funny thing too, the one we get most often on the college campuses is "I pooped today" with like a poop emoji. Why, I don't know, because
Uh-huh.
it runs in the same vein as the "I pee in the shower" one.
Uh-huh. Well, one thing, I mean, and Reese and I spoke to this already. I mean, Frank, the what Post Secret does also is so profound and powerful. And you are like a human that cares about the world. And what Reese brought up in his research is what they found initially on the suicide hotline, whether it was the intervention, people that had studied interventions, and then the Good Samaritans, the one thread that was key for the success of the calls was that the person cared about them. And to me, like, you care about every single postcard you get. And I that's so powerful, you know? It's so touching what you have done. Um, because everyone that sends it into you knows they're cared about by someone.
Well, before I started Post Secret, as I mentioned, I was a volunteer on the suicide prevention hotline, listening to calls, talking to people, trying to help. But before you even pick up that first call, you have to go through training, about 2 weeks. And I can still remember the training was in the basement of this church in Virginia, Maryland, close to Washington, D.C. And one of the techniques that we would use is we'd set the chairs back to back, and I'd sit in one chair and our trainer would sit in the other, backs to each other. And the trainer would say, ring, ring. And I'd say, 1-800 suicide. This is Mark. We had to use a fictitious name. And he would go on to be a caller and I would respond. And made the same mistake over and over and over again, which was immediately trying to solve the problem. Like, let's figure out this problem is. Why are you depressed? What makes you depressed? How can we do it? And the trainer had to, make me do the role play again and again until I got it. And really, he kept emphasizing the importance of two things. First was to be non-judgmental and speak in a voice of empathy and compassion and openness. And second was to not try and direct the conversation and come up with these super cool strategies that the caller could use or just the perfect referral for them, but rather just to listen, just to ask open-ended questions, let the caller continue with the call as long as he or she wanted to, let them take it in any direction they wanted to. And he said, and it turned out to be true, callers kind of know what their problem is and they kind of know what their solution is. They just don't have the community or the support to talk it out and to get that confirmation and that validation. And that was really the first step. And then, the caller might want a referral or some strategies or to take the conversation elsewhere. But that first step was really just to be that non judgmental person who would listen and care and not try and prescribe a solution. And I think that translates directly to what Post Secret is. It's this non judgmental place, this safe place where you can share your secret, get it out, and there's not going to be any negative ramifications on you personally. You can just see it there. And that actually was true for me too. I don't share this story often, but when I started Post Secret, I was connected to this art exhibition in Washington, D.C. called Artomatic. It was hundreds of artists and hundreds of studios all connected. And my exhibit was a string across the space where I would hang these postcards that had been mailed to me. It was like the project was like 3 months old. And so nobody knew about it. I would say, share a secret, read a secret, leave a secret. And one of the secrets hanging was mine. And it was a painful secret from my childhood. And nobody knew it was my secret, but it was there with everybody else's. So night after night, I would be there with the secrets, interacting with guests walking by, and I could observe people walking down, reading the secrets and reading my secret and seeing them emotionally respond to it as an observer. And it was so cathartic to have that experience, but at the same time, be safe. It wasn't me saying those words. I wasn't in a back and forth therapy session. It was art that I had infused with this shameful experience in my life. And I was seeing other people validate it and see their compassionate responses as they went by. So maybe that's the real reason I started Post Secret, is I had my own secrets that I had to exercise and get out and share, and with that kind of release the shame that's always connected to the secrets that we carry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful things that we get to see every time we do the events on the college campuses is students that have gone through the fair and have shared their secret will often come back a half hour, an hour later, and they go right to the wall and they want to see that their secret's up on the wall. And I actually at one of the events that we did, I was at the final station where they fill out the outcome form, and I was asking, "What did you like?" And they said, "Oh, definitely the sharing of the secret." And and I said, "What'd you like about the sharing of the secret?" And the young woman said, uh, "I shared a secret I've never shared with anybody in my life before, but now I feel like I can share it with my best friend." And I was like, the goosebumps on the back of my neck were going up. I just could not believe what I was hearing. And I looked past her about 10, 15 feet, and I saw this other gal just standing there waiting. She wasn't in line or anything. And I said, "Is that your friend over there?" And she turned around and it was. And so she left me, took her friend over to the wall and pointed to her secret. And that the two of them just broke out crying and then hugging each other. To be a witness to this was, I imagine, even similar to your experience, Frank, with the string and your sharing your secret. Uh, but you couldn't have planned this or predicted it. But it was amazing to watch that cathartic healing happen in real time. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is so healing to be able to, share your most vulnerable self and to be loved and seen in that process. And it's so critical for hope. And I feel like if we don't do like that's what led to so many of my addictive, behaviors is not being able to acknowledge so much of kind of what had happened in my life, for me personally speaking. Personally. So it's a gift. And I feel like, yeah, once you put a secret on a postcard, then it's like, well, maybe I can go a little bit further. That wasn't so bad. I was seen and loved, and maybe I can, and that is kind of the process and journey of healing, I think, and really life and getting to hope, you know?
Yeah, I think the story that Reese shared is inspirational in a number of ways. That first pebble in the pond that starts the ripples that allows her friend to tell her back her secret that might be an even bigger secret to get that communication, that ball rolling. I feel like the courage to be vulnerable is really a key in all of us that can set an expectation that can create a space where it can just be a celebration of our hidden selves that allows us to embrace more of who we are, to be more present, and to allow more of others to come into our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, in talking about suicide prevention, how to be a good human, how to be a good human being, care about people. People need to feel cared about. I work with Scarlett Lewis, who started the Choose Love movement, and her son Jesse was killed in a school shooting. And we need love. We need to feel seen and heard, and that's these shooters, often there's such a sense of isolation with them, and the feeling of not being loved, not being seen, people not being kind to them. And to me, if we want to solve for so many of the challenges that we're having right now across the US and the world, it starts with, you know, being willing to be vulnerable, being a compassionate human being, being caring. People need to feel cared about. And to me, that is, what the movement you have both, each started in your own right. When we're in crisis, being able to call someone and knowing someone is gonna be there to listen to us, to acknowledge us, and to help us, as you say, Frank, find our kind of find what we already know, our answers are, but just being in a safe space to talk about them, to talk through them, and then too, feeling like, we can share things that we feel such shame about or hurt or pain in a way that's safe and where we can feel seen, where we won't get in trouble or shamed about it or criticized, you know?
We ask every student that we encounter, if you have a peer that is having suicidal thoughts and they've shared this with you, how do you think you can help? And it's interesting to listen to the responses because they're almost always in the same vein of, I'm going to take them to exercise. I'm going to find out what they want to do and, solve the problem, find
Yeah.
why it occurred, all the things that Frank was talking about, what the training is trying to drum out of us. Um, when all it is that they need to be seen and heard, uh, but they're in a crisis. And so I give them an example. I say, if you are in a panic crisis mode, can you find the keys to your car or your homework or whatever it is that you're rushing about? And they say, no. Well, think about the person who's in a suicidal crisis. They're not thinking in a linear, rational fashion. They're in a crisis state. So if you can help them calm down, listen to what's going on with them at the end of what, 15 minutes? What's the maximum the human brain can be in a crisis state? I think it's 45 minutes before you pass out. If you let them talk for however long they need to, sharing what's going on, eventually they'll calm down. And when they do, then you can say, "Have you ever had a crisis before?" And invariably, this is not their first crisis, right? Say, well, how did you survive all the other ones? I wasn't there. And at that moment, they're calm enough where they can get in touch with their coping mechanism, hopefully not a maladaptive one. Hopefully it's a healthy one. Maybe it is kayaking or painting or dancing
Mhm.
or going to a therapist. Whatever it is that works for that person, they can reconnect. And then you as the friend can support them in that, provided it's not maladaptive.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. And Frank, in the SHINE frameworks, I've been studying hope around the world. There's a hope scale so we can measure how hopeful people are. And we teach hope as a skill, like it's a muscle. You have to build and you have to like practice your skills. And more challenges you have, the lower like your hope usually goes. And like that's when you have to really work on your skills. And so we have the stress skills, so how you identify and manage your stress response, happiness habits, so how we get those happiness habits in healthy ways versus unhealthy ways. Like we can get dopamine from addiction, so smoking or drinking or unhealthy kind of behaviors, or in the healthy ways. And Reese was talking about how you bike. So, going out for a bike ride or a hike, or, even looking at pictures of nature. Like I became obsessed with, well, how do you get to hope? Like when you have crises happen, like it's easy to say hope, but how do you actually get back there? And so learning how we do that. The I is the inspired actions we take, how we set goals, overcome obstacles, regoal, nourishing networks. So cultivating those healthy bi-directional networks, and then eliminating challenges, which are negative thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope, like ruminating or having bias or internalizing failure, all these automatic negative thoughts. Like all of these things our brain does automatically, that until we become aware of them and start taking control of them and learning how to navigate them again in healthier ways, it's hard to get to hope. So we've been doing this, and to me, the work that both of you all are doing are such important strategies for cultivating hope in life. And it's the journey, not hope is not really a destination, it's a journey, and how we build our hope muscle, and having those networks, and working on our trauma, and being able to connect with others, and having caring people in our lives. Those are all so critical to our ability, and to maintain hope, and to get back to hope. So I'm so I admire both of your work so very much, and I'm so grateful for all that you have done. I think you all are champions of hope, and have been leading the way and for hope for so many people, and I'm really so grateful for that. So, but on that note, I would love if you have any other final thoughts or comments or anything you wanted to say, or and I'd love to also hear how we can both find out, listeners can find out about your work and what you're doing in the world.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing with hope. And when I think about hope, I always try and link it with help. So you've got kind of the hope and then some strategies or techniques, some action to go along with that. Um, for me, I've had to find a way to see painful secrets every day for 20 years.
Yeah.
Be its own challenge. So some of the things that work for me are, as you mentioned, getting out in nature. I went for a hike today. I do a lot of endurance exercise. So tomorrow I'm going on a 20-mile bike ride. I feel like after I exert all that energy, I can't hold any tension or stress in my body. It's physically impossible. So that's been like an unlock for me. And then just my wife, Jan, and relationships with my daughter, those things are kind of my medicine. So I've had to find these strategies and techniques in my life to maintain an even baseline as challenges will come. And so along with the hope is the help that I try and focus on. And Reese, maybe this connects to the conversation we were having yesterday, where when people are sharing these postcards at colleges that express heaviness or despair or sadness or depression. That's an important part, but maybe there can be another part where other students walking by reading those can leave a post-it note with a strategy, with
Mm.
with something that they think could help this person, like I get it, I'm here to listen, or try and take a time out and take a walk through nature, or realize that you have family and friends that care about you. Like, I don't know what they would be specifically, but maybe there's some sort of call and response where anonymous, you have part of the student body expressing their feelings, their secrets in a vulnerable way, and the other part of the college body responding in a way that's compassionate, showing that they're present, they hear, they care, and there are these other things that have been proven to work that might have worked for them in the past that might work for them. So kind of completing the circle.
Yeah, and happen in real time, so that that person who initially shared the secret can come back later and see what the other students responded, either whether it's ideas or just acknowledging uh, what it is that that person is carrying as a burden, can be very powerful.
I love that addition to the idea, the way of making that conversation complete. And so when you experience that, you see it as this exercise, but also your heart feels this sense of destigmatization in the community. It's a community building experience where you realize, oh, maybe I can be more of my true self in my class or in this activity or walking through the quad. I've got this secret here. I'll share with you before I let you go. It has a picture of a rock in nature. Someone's on the rock alone. And the secret says, my best friend helped me see the beautiful view instead of looking for a reason to jump.
Mm,
Yeah, it's very powerful.
wow. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Frank. And I'll let you know how the call and response change in how we do it, how it works. And I think what we can do is have a sign at the station where students are instructed to go read The Secrets of Your Peers, and if you see one that you can relate to, or one that you would like to respond to in a positive way to help that person, uh, that can be your contribution.
Yeah,
I love
I think it goes back to the idea of hope and
Yep.
exploring to find new ways of hope
Yep.
and using these challenges as opportunities to grow the program even more, make it more meaningful to the students on campus.
Yep. I love it. And for them to feel cared for, people care about you. People care about what you're going through.
Yeah, somebody took the time to read it and then took the time to respond in a constructive, creative, positive way.
I love it. I love it. So good. So Frank, how can people find out about your work? Can we still send in postcards?
Oh, sure. You can send a postcard anytime. Just Google PostSecret. The blog is postsecret.com, and there's a Facebook as well on 6 books.
I think you're the most caring person in the world, you know? I mean, you have cared for how much time do this is like amazing what you have done. I cannot believe it. It's
The New York Times said Frank is the most trusted stranger in America.
wow.
I can
Yeah.
attest to that for sure.
That's amazing.
We're very, very blessed to have Frank, and
Yeah.
the hotline community is very blessed to have him as well. He doesn't even know it yet, but this weekend through to tomorrow is the annual Crisis Center conference, and it was in Indianapolis. And I was getting all these messages from Crisis Center directors about Post Secret and Frank, thanking him. I didn't get a chance to send those to him yet, but they were talking about you there, Frank.
It's an amazing community. Feels great to be a part of it. Great to be you, Reese.
That is so cool. And Reese, how can people find out about you and the work you're doing?
I'm alive.org. IMALIVE.org.
Amazing.
Our emails are on the site, and information, mailing address, all that stuff is on there. Uh, we would love to bring our event to a community or a campus near you.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, it's been 15 years, but in many ways it feels like yesterday seeing both of you. I mean, I've seen Reese a little bit more. Frank, I don't think I've seen you once since then. So Reese was
We're doing good.
I know. Yeah. So, yes, thank you both for all of your incredible work in the world. You're true pioneers. I'm so grateful to know both of you. Mental health, people are talking about it now, and it's become, you all were doing it before it was okay to be.
Actionable, yeah.
Yes. So, really, really, so much gratitude and for all you've done for the world, and it's great to see you both again, and thank you to all you listeners from listening in. Post Secret and I'mAlive.org. Check it out. So cool. They were, yes, before their time for sure. So thanks for listening in and have a very blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks all.
Bye bye.
Bye now.
So thank you all for listening in to the Hope Matrix podcast. We want to shine a light that hope is teachable, hope is measurable and teachable, and provide you with actionable insights for how you can start activating hope in your life today, and provide a framework so you can start talking about hope with other people and practice these skills together, because we are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope into your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have a My Hope Story template, so you can write your own hope story today. Also, My Hope Heroes, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in their lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program, a Hopeful Minds overview, educator guides. We have a new evidence-based college course so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workplace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill. You've got to practice these skills to become hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening in. Have an awesome day. And of course, I've got to add that this program is designed to assist you in learning about hope. It should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Kathryn Goetzke, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition, and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical profession or call 911 if you are in need of immediate assistance. And be sure to know the crisis hotline, 988, if you are in need of support. Thanks a bunch for listening. Take good care of yourself and keep shining hope.